There we go. Hi, everybody. It's Irene Kishansky here from the KB Real Estate team at Keller Williams Portfolio Realty on this pre-long weekend Thursday. We are in Toronto and it's sunshiny and it's beautiful and I'm really excited. I'd actually rather be outside, but I committed here, so I'm going to make sure that I give you guys as much value as I possibly can. And hopefully by the time we're done, you can learn a thing or two to help you on whichever end of a multiple offer presentation you're on, whether it's as a listing agent or as a buyer agent. And as we just sort of wait for a few more people to jump on, maybe I can ask a few of the other attendees. Megan shared with me a few of the things that she would like to get out of the session. So maybe I could hear from a few more of you. What would be really important for you to know? I have my own material, but I'd love to open that up to you guys just to see what else we can put in here that might help you out. So if you want to speak, just unmute. Oh, everybody's being so quiet. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, this is an interactive session. Lisa, sorry, you were going to say something?
No, I was just saying I'm interested in hearing about how you handle bidding wars, because that's the one that I'm facing all the time right now. There are always bidding wars. And yeah, so I just want to hear your tips on it.
Perfect. So if you aren't speaking, if you could stay on mute, but if you would like to either say or ask anything, you can either raise your digital hand or just unmute and jump in. I'll try to have little pauses so you guys can jump in there. So I know that we have a few folks here outside of Toronto and everybody's market is different. For us in Toronto, it's certainly a very, very up and down market. And in most of North America, we've all been going through quite a seller's market. It's a challenging time for buyers, but it also isn't all rosy for sellers because there are some real, Goran, I'm just going to mute you there. Some real idiosyncrasies, I guess, for lack of a better words. And in Toronto, we have a number of very, very different neighborhoods, and a lot of them act differently, even though the real estate market overall is fairly consistent. So regardless of where you are, make sure that whatever I share with you, you sort of apply to your local market, because it might not all apply equally the same way that it would here. So for us in Toronto, it's been quite heated for a while. I think as many of you who work with buyers know. And whether you're working on the listing end or the buyer's end, there are certain things that would be really important to put into place so that you are successful regardless of which end of the transaction you're on. So we'll start with the listing piece. And even in markets that are buoyant, there are always properties that either linger on the market or they perhaps get one offer and not multiples. So for us, one of the critical pieces is to actually have some strategic pricing. Now, there's a difference between strategic and underpricing. There are, as we know, there are more than just one or two agents who like to really underprice their properties and have that be the sort of drawing point for generating a lot of offers. So for us in Toronto, sometimes we see listings at $899,000 or $999,000 when we know that those houses will sell for 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 or above. And that practice is a little bit deceptive. It's a little bit, it's more than a little bit frustrating to buyers and their agents, because you know that the house will not ever sell under $1 million. But you know, for us in Toronto, that's been an unfortunate practice, and we on our team shy away from that. But when I talk about strategic pricing, you can't overprice a house and still end up with competition, because that just isn't going to happen. So we need to come up with a price that's perhaps just a little tiny bit under market value. So it does generate a lot of interest, but not to the point where it's sort of a ridiculously low price, where you're really getting people's hopes up. So it's a fine line, and you really have to know your market as the listing agent to make sure that you sort of plant yourself and your listing somewhere in that range that will generate a lot of interest, but still draw in the right kind of buyers. Sometimes when you price too low, then you're missing some of the buyers with the upper budgets, which could work against you and your seller as well. So other than pricing, marketing is critical. You know, it's really easy to think that if the market is buoyant, anything that you put on MLS will sell. And while that's true, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to sell for the best price. So we always help our clients prepare their listings. So whether it's staging with rental furniture or design elements, or just cleaning it up and clearing it out. Sometimes that's all you need to do for staging, is really present a property with less stuff in it. You know, how we live and how we sell is typically very different. And if you try to put a listing on the market the way your clients live, you may not get the right results. So certainly preparation is key, regardless of the level of it. And as far as marketing, throwing a house on MLS will have it sell, you know, most of the time. But the amount of marketing we do directly impacts the number of buyers that we get through the door, and thereby increasing the level of interest in the house and giving us the opportunity to generate more than one offer. You know, us in Toronto, we've been locked up for quite a while, and it's been really nice to be able to do public open houses again. So we've had 4 or 5 this spring already. And although, of course, with COVID protocols, the amount of people that you have in a house can't be what it used to be. But still, we're looking at anywhere between 2 and 3 groups of people in an open house at a time. And having that volume of people inside the house helps other buyers see that there is interest, and have them know that there is potential competition in the wings, so that they're not going to be the only one at the table. Certainly having people wait outside because of COVID protocols is, you know, a little bit frustrating perhaps for the buyers that are coming into the open house, but it cuts down on the looky-loos. And again, when you have 2 or 3 sets of people lined up outside, it's nice for other buyers to see that there's a greater level of interest. So, you know, it's that whole fear of missing out, right? If somebody else is interested, it means I should be interested as well. Kevin's smiling. Is this something you've experienced, Kevin? Yeah, so. Okay. Just sort of show of hands, do we have folks here that are mostly listing agents? Can I get a hand, or is it mostly buyer's agents? Yeah, Kelly, you're on mute.
I'm mostly a buyer trying to transition to more listing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Mostly listing.
excellent. Where is your market, Kelly? I know you're outside of Toronto.
I'm in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
great.
so about 50 minutes west of Boston.
And is your market still in favor of sellers as well?
Yes, very much so. Very much so. So this class is on time for me.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Anybody else sort of more listing focused or more buyer focused?
Buyer.
Yep. All right. That's great. So as far as preparation, there's preparing your sellers, and there's preparing buyer's agents. So we're still talking about the listing component here. So part of the preparation actually needs to start at the listing appointment. So having some clearly laid out expectations is really critical in order for us to have like a good partnership type of relationship with the sellers. If the sellers' ambitions for pricing are even higher than what the market will bear, we need to know that ahead of time, and we need to make sure that we deal with that before we even put the house on the market. But you know, if you're in line with your sellers, and you have sort of a strategic plan with that pricing, with a goal of whatever ballpark range, you know, Eliza, I know you mentioned that you can't talk numbers, so whatever range of prices it is that you have in mind, it's important to have that alignment. We create a market service report for our clients, our seller clients, to outline everything that we have done throughout the marketing of the property, and we send that to them on the morning of offers. So the way we run things in Toronto is we have 6 to 7, sometimes 8 days of showings, and then we have a set offer date. So it does create some order and cuts down on a little bit of the chaos when we have a specific time and date that we look at offers, because you really know what to expect. Now, of course, hopefully you have more than one offer, or at least one offer to deal with, but hopefully you have more than one, because that you know, again, like if you have that volume of business to deal with, it's going to make offer presentation that much easier. So day before, typically the day before offers, we send our sellers a preparation email. So I'm going to go through the contents of these prep emails with you. Don't try and write anything down. They're fairly long. I just want you to get the gist of them. Andy from our market center, Megan's request, making notes. Andy will send all of this stuff out to you, because everybody's going to have a little bit of a different twist. So don't try and write everything down, and don't get flustered if you don't. Just get the feel of what it is that I'm relaying to you, because the different stages are really important. So the first one prepares our sellers a day, sometimes 2 days before offer day. Then we have an email to the buyer's agents that gives them instructions. Then the morning of offers, we have, I call it game day. So I send it early in the morning, and that's the, okay, this is what's going to happen today email to the sellers. And then there is the thank you for registering your offer email that we send to the agents, the buyer's agents that actually have an offer, they have a registered offer. So I'm going to go through this with you. Kelly, did you want to ask a question?
You mentioned the market service report. What's typically in that?
That outlines all of our marketing efforts, where we send flyers, which social media we post on, how many impressions we get with our Facebook ads, how many database emails we send out. We have a very active database of our past clients and prospects. We market to them. We market to local agents so that we increase more awareness of the listing. We do a lot of posts on all of the Facebook groups. If it's a luxury listing, we have 3 different properties that we market our listings on, or 3 different websites and groups that we market our listings on. So we outline all of that. And you know what? That was the one thing, Kelly, that I didn't actually put up on screen for myself. So I will do that as we speak and show you a copy of that. It's just a Google Doc, and it's really simple, and it's very, very effective, because it really helps clients understand. Okay, so now my my admin's hidden it. I'll see if I can find it, but it really helps clients understand everything that goes into the marketing. Sorry, Kelly, I can't find a copy of it right now, but it's
That's okay, thank you.
yeah. So yeah, Meg, I'll get to you in a sec. So if it's busy with offers, it's a good it's a really good overview document of what we did to generate all of that interest, because what you don't want sellers to think is, oh, you just threw it on MLS and did some pictures and like you've got 20 offers. If we don't have either a lot of offers, or if we don't have competition, it helps them understand everything that went into the marketing, so that if we have to have a discussion about a price adjustment, a plan B, or anything that will cause the house not to sell that day, then we have that ammo to say, okay, this is everything that we did So if this is everything we did and this is the traffic that we had in the house, and we're still not getting you that, price you were hoping for, there's a reason, and the market is telling us what the property is worth. Doesn't matter what you think it's worth, right? That's the market. So it's a double duty. The market service report does a double duty. Does that help, Megan?
Yeah. When are you sitting with your clients and going over this?
I email it.
Mhm.
So I typically will send the game day email the morning of offers, and then that market service report will be sort of a few hours after that. And I email it first, and then depending on the client, if they're a very high D, I'll say to them, you saw the market service report, you saw what we did. If they're a high C or anything in between, I'll go through every single line with them.
Got it.
Because they really appreciate that level of detail. All right, so let's get into the content of these emails. So the pre-offer day client version, and it starts with, we wanted to give you some advance notice of what to expect on Wednesday, which is our offer day. And this is really important, because regardless of how much communication we've had with them in the week before offers, it's important for them to understand what happens with buyer agents. So I say, while we've already started to hear from buyers agents that some clients have interest, we know that talking about it and registering an offer are two different things. A registered offer means it's been signed by the buyer and it's official. Until then, everything is just talk. And the reason that no, Kelly, I didn't share my screen. If you guys, I think if I share my screen, you're going to be stuck in reading. If there's a lot of chatter about interest in the house and the clients get very, very excited, they might be disappointed if that chatter doesn't actually translate into a registered offer. So I'm really clear with the distinction on that. I talk about us typically not hearing about registrations until closer to offer time. We don't know the details of offers until they come in, because of course clients want to know, oh, there's an offer, what is the price? Well, we don't know that until we actually sit down and go through all of the offers at the same time. And I let them know that the reason for that is because buyers agents typically want to wait until they know what the level of competition is before deciding on the price that they put on an offer. For us in Toronto, we cannot disclose the details of any offers, but all agents at the table have to know how many offers there are. And typically, we don't get those numbers until the hour before our actual offer presentation. So the day of offers for us typically gets a little bit hectic and hairy, but that's all part of dealing with things professionally. So this week, I've had two offer presentations in person. Woohoo! But generally, we've been doing everything on Zoom. COVID certainly has changed the process for us quite a bit. I'll tell you though, there's nothing like sitting in front of a person when you're doing those negotiations, because it really is a different kind of relationship, and I think it's more effective. But there you go. Everybody has their own opinions on that. I also state that we need to give interested buyers a sense of preferred closing. I mean, obviously by now I will have had a discussion with them about closing, but that goes into the offer prep email as well. And I let them know that we coach agents, and I also let them know that the pre-negotiation with the agents starts, typically the day before offers, and it goes through offer day, because we really do want to coach buyers agents as much as possible to bring us their best offer. I think we've all experienced being on the listing end and agents come in with a price that's they know is lower than what their clients will pay, and they want a chance to improve, and they go back to their buyers and they come in and back and forth and back and forth, and it could really stretch out. And it can become very tiresome for everybody involved. So I do my best to coach agents ahead of time on that. And in fact, I'll go through the offer instructions email. shortly. Is there any questions before I do that? Okay, no, you guys are rocking it. So the pre-offer day agent instructions email states, thanks for showing interest in the property. We tell the agents what time we want offers registered by, as well as when we want them sent in. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to go back to having buyers agents come in person to present offers. I think that definitely sort of washed out the efficiency, or I guess COVID brought in efficiencies for that process, because, for anybody that's been in the business for, 2 years or less, we used to have buyers agents, lining up outside in their cars or sitting in an office. And it was quite a cumbersome process. So certainly receiving offers by email and then dealing with the clients, just dealing with the clients personally, has been really, really efficient. So I don't know if we're ever going to go back to that sort of craziness of everybody showing up in the same place at the same time. I outlined the ideal closing that the sellers are looking for. And then just because of the way the market has been, we really encourage, or I guess discourage, any buyer broker fee reductions. So we want to make it clear that if anyone from our team has an offer, we do not have any commission reductions. How you choose to deal with things is entirely up to you. If you have a collateral agreement with your seller that if you bring in your own offer, you reduce your fees, that's entirely up to you. We like to do things very, very cleanly. And if we do have one of our own offers in competition, we don't have any fee reductions. So we actually put that in writing before offers are presented. And then in that same paragraph, we say we're extremely grateful for your hard work and are offering a fee of, on our end, it's 2.5% plus taxes. If you are considering a commission reduction to assist your buyer, please note that we respectfully request that you deal with this separately with your buyer and your brokerage, and do not include any commission reduction on your confirmation. Putting this in place really simplifies things, because if one buyer agent wants to reduce their fee, then we have to disclose that to all of the other buyer agents, and it really, really complicates the process. So we just decided to nip that in the bud and say, if you have any sort of side conversations or agreements, please deal with them on your own, as opposed to on the offer. And that goes with agents that are buying for themselves as well. Because if they don't want to be paid, if they want to buy the property for their own personal use and they don't want to take the buyer's end of the commission, it really throws numbers off. And then you're trying to figure out, well, what's the gross? How is the net? It just complicates things. So we do our best just to move that aside and not have that as a consideration. So that is the day before. And the morning of, it's that game day version of the email that I sent to the clients. So there's two versions of this. There's the good news version, and there's the version that we know we might have to put into place because it hasn't been busy. The feedback hasn't been good. We don't think we're going to get any offers, never mind multiple offers. So if there's a specific offer date and we know going in that we might have to have a plan B, I carefully put that into the game day email so that if I have to have that conversation with them, they've already been prepped a little bit. So the good news version is we're hoping for an exciting afternoon of offers. Agents and buyers tend to wait until at least offer day to make their intentions known, and sometimes not until the very last hour, which we touched on in the first email. We've asked agents to register by 5 and send offers by 5:30, but I always build in a buffer. So if we tell agents offers are by 4 o'clock, I'll typically meet with the client by about 5, because buyers agents, for better or for worse, have a tendency to run late. Sometimes it's because they think they're going to have an advantage. Sometimes it's just because they're unorganized, or sometimes, sometimes it's their buyer. The buyer can't make a decision, right? We've all had that happen. Eliza, you were very close to putting an offer in and your buyer pulled out at the very last minute, right? Yeah, so I outline all of that in that email. And then this is really important because it puts the negotiating in perspective for the clients. Today's business hours on our end will be spent juggling, massaging, negotiating until we end up with the right terms from the offers. I'll essentially be doing pre-negotiations with the agents in an attempt to have the best offers by the time I'm on Zoom with you. This is for Zoom. It doesn't guarantee that will be the case, but at least increases the likelihood and reduces, at least in part, the back and forth. So the reason I want the clients to know that is because if we don't have good numbers at the time of offer presentation, I can say to them, look, this is what I've been working on all afternoon, and this is where we are. So we can send offers back for improvement, which is obviously always a possibility, but just know what I've been doing up until now. And that's also so the clients know that I'm not just sitting there waiting for the offers to fall in or fly in or come in, right? They want to know that you're actually working for them. And I do let them know that once we get together, they have 3 choices: accept an offer exactly as is because everything about it is terrific, reject them all because none of them are good. This is unlikely, but always possible. Again, just paving the way just in case. Or send any number back for improvement if their terms are too close to make an informed decision. So one of the things that I work on a lot is making sure that our reputation, me as an agent and us as a team, remains positive. Buyer's agents know that if they have an offer in competition, they'll be dealt with fairly. I don't play any games. I'm very, very fast in a multiple offer situation, just because if you're sitting around and you have no chance of getting the house, I don't want to be, leaving you hanging. So having that relationship with the agents ahead of time is really helpful because they know that what I say is true. They know I don't play any games. Now, when it comes to negotiations, there's ways of being polite and positive and still get more money for your client while you're not turning off the buyer's agent. Because there's some, I think, we can all agree there are some listing agents who are arrogant and cocky and you just want to take your offer and just go home. And that's what I talk to our sellers about a lot. We want to make sure we deal with agents fairly because you never know who's going to come out in the lead. It might be an offer that was really low at the beginning, but they decided to make an improvement and they end up getting the property, right? That can always happen. So you and I will discuss all of these at that time. See you soon. Your market service report will be coming shortly. And not great news. Typically what I'll put in some kind of, we've been very, very busy. This is the good stuff that we heard. This is the stuff that we've heard that's not so good. So we'll see what will happen. If we get offers, great. If not, we can figure out what our plan B is going to be. So paving that way, putting that seed there. So in case that conversation has to happen, I can say, so, remember when I emailed you and we said we might have to have a plan B? Well, we might have to have a plan B. So that doesn't mean they're not going to be disappointed, but at least you've you've had a little bit of that prep. So it will make things a little teeny tiny bit easier. So far, so good? Great.
Yes.
And then the agent version. So I really work hard to keep the agents engaged. So as soon as they register their offer, I'll send an email saying, thanks very much. We'll be in touch a little bit later. I got your email. It's nothing worse than as a buyer's agent, you register your offer and nobody gets in touch with you. You're like, did you get the call? Do you know I'm there? Ben?
Hi, Irene. First, thank you so much. It's very helpful. My question is, if a client wants to go a little bit over asking price, what number you can advise? If the client has a finance condition with the mortgage, I mean, 5%, more or less, because it's a very tricky situation.
Are you talking about when you're on the buyer's end?
Yes.
So I will address the buyer's end in a little bit. But the short answer is, it depends. It depends on what similar properties are selling for. It depends on going back to the pricing. What is the property priced at? If it's, what market are you in? Are you in Toronto?
Yes,
Okay, so let's say it's worth 1.2. Is it listed at $1,149,000 or is it listed at $799,000? Right, so there's no formula because there's so many other factors that play. There's nothing easy. It's doing your research and knowing what a property should sell for, and essentially telling your client to ignore the list price, because if it's really, really low, you can't use the list price as a gauge.
I saw some people, they offer 500K over asking price. The price was $3 million. They offered $3.5 million. It seems to be kind of insane to me.
Well,
That much.
it really depends on what the value is, right? I mean, we had a situation just yesterday. We had a $3 million listing. We had 4 offers, and it sold for $3,380,000. So you're looking at $400,000 or $500,000 in your case on a $3 million property. That's not massive. $400,000 on $1 million property, that's massive. But then again, you have to go back to what's the value. If they paid 1.4, was it worth 1.2 or was it worth 1.5 and they got a deal, right? When we start talking about the buyer piece, it all comes down to knowing your numbers and educating your buyers so that they understand what's going on in the market. Does that help?
Yes, thank you. That's great.
Cool. So acknowledging the buyer's agent's offer is really important. And then when we get sort of to about a half hour or so before the actual offer presentation time, I do have another email that I send to all of the registered agents. Now we have Broker Bay now, so you don't have to actually send an email. You can send the notification through Broker Bay, but if you don't have that in your office that you work in, you're fine to send an email. We're still okay to send emails. If I do send an email to the agents that are registered, I always BCC everybody, because we don't want people sort of commingling and having that discussion. So thank you for registering your offer on 123 Main Street. You are currently one of 4, and we are expecting more, we aren't expecting more, whatever it is that you are experiencing at that time. Should any more get registered prior to our presentation time, you will be advised immediately. Then we outline whether or not any offers are from our own office or especially our team. So in this particular example that I've had, one of the offers is from Philip Brown on our team. I guess he had an offer on one of our listings. And then I clearly state we have no reductions in our fees with this offer. So it's very, very clear. People know that everybody's going to be on the same level playing field. Please send me your paperwork as soon as you feel comfortable. Our goal is to accept the best offer on the first round without going back to any buyers for improvements. We will only have a second round if absolutely necessary. Thank you and good luck. That doesn't guarantee that it will be a one-shot deal, but at least if you do have somebody, one of the buyer's agents is playing silly bugger, give me a chance to improve, give me another one, give me another one, it extends the process and it really does upset everybody else at the table. So I do my best to lay that groundwork so that if there is not a second round, nobody gets upset. I can say, look, I told you, bring me your best. Now it's a fine line, right? And again, it goes back to what is the price point of the house? And at what point do you feel as the listing agent that you want to give buyer agents an opportunity to improve? So the gap between offers is really what I use as an indication of whether or not to do that. So if it's a $1 million property and it's maybe a $10,000 difference, well, somebody's going to be upset if they find out that the other offer was only $10,000 more. Whereas if it's $100,000 or even 50 at $1 million, then I think that makes it pretty clear where the decision needs to be. However, you talk about the $3, $4, $5 million properties. Well, $100,000 on something like that, maybe you do go back to the buyer's agents, and this is where the importance of having a good reputation and knowing that agents can trust you really helps, because you can say to them, look, I've been upfront with you right from the very beginning, and I'm not here being greedy. I let our buyers agents know that our sellers have been coached, and I talk to them about values, and I don't want to sorry, I've been missing the chat there, guys. I'm sorry. I don't want to be seeming greedy, which is very possible in multiple offers. And you want everybody that doesn't get the property, you want them to feel like they've been dealt with fairly. And I hear that a lot from agents that don't get the deal. I mean, obviously only one can. They're typically very grateful that they were dealt with fairly, and they don't feel that they've been slighted. Oh, Laura, thank you. Well, this is what Laura said. If all listing agents did this, it would really help the buyer agents and their clients. Part of why we want to keep at Keller Williams doing these courses and training sessions is so that we elevate the level of professionalism in the whole industry. And the more we do that, the better we will be perceived. One of my clients in the farm, this doesn't have to do with an offer, but it's just sort of the image of realtors. She took a snapshot of a letter that she got from somebody who's not even a local agent. And it was, we have buyers, get the best price for your home in, and they named the neighborhood what the real estate board calls it, which isn't even the real name of the neighborhood. The real estate board created this arbitrary name that none of us realtors use. None of the owners who live in the neighborhood use it. So we have buyers for homes in this Islington City Center. Builders will get you the best price. So she sent this to me, and she sort of with a chuckle and said, well, clearly they don't understand the subtleties of our neighborhood. And I said, unfortunately, that's what gives agents a bad name. And whether you're trying to get a listing under false pretenses, or you don't deal with other agents fairly at the offer time, that all goes into the image of our industry. And if we could all work a little bit harder on improving that image, it would help all of us. Yeah. So thanks for that, Laura. I appreciate it. Where were we? Prepping agents. Okay, so offers come in. Sometimes it's very fast. I'll go through. Oh, I know what I want to show you. So I created an offer registration chart. So I'm going to show this to you. Anytime we have more than 4 offers, actually even more than 3, we do put this chart together for our clients. So I've taken out the price, obviously, because we don't want to be disclosing any details. And this is the chart that we put together that outlines all of the pertinent information for each offer. When you have 2, 3, 4, this isn't as important. When we had 10, 15, 20, we've had through COVID, my highest number of offers was 27. And when you have that many, you really need a nice, clean chart to follow all the details. It takes time to put it together, but it really makes life a lot easier, because then you can just compare prices, you can compare deposits. If you have conditions, there are still cases, Ben said your client wants to put a condition in. What do? Well, you either coach them to not, or you say, well, we'll put the offer in and it's not likely to be accepted with a condition. But here's the other thing I've found on the buyer's end, Ben, and we've been experiencing this a lot. We want to educate our clients. We want to help them put the best offers together. But ultimately, you don't always know what's going to happen. And sometimes a house sells for less than what you think it should. We have had just this year, and Meg, you probably have heard this from Samantha, we've had at least 2, if not 3, of our buyers buy at like $100,000 or $150,000 less than what we thought the house would sell for. And so you know, sometimes you have buyers that just won't listen and they're not going to get a house. Sometimes you just got to keep going and put the offers in, because you never know what will happen. And there's nothing worse than having a house sell for less than what you thought it would, and it wasn't your buyer who bought it. Right. So yeah, it's tricky. It's, you know, again, a fine line. You really want to balance your effort and your energy with the uncertainty of the market, right? Because you really, like right now, especially, like we don't really know what's going to happen. Okay. So from a negotiating perspective, it's also really important to make sure that the buyer's agents feel that you are helping and not being extortionary, right? So having that sort of, and I mean, we could have a whole course on negotiation and still not cover absolutely everything, but the important thing is be upfront, be honest, be fair, and go back to continually coach your clients. Like our seller clients are all over the place. Some are very reasonable and they'll listen to you 110%, and others will be greedy and they'll send you back for more money. And you can say to them, okay, I'm going to try, but if they walk away, then we've lost this offer. I had a case actually this week where we had a condo that had an offer date, and we already priced it a little bit higher than we were going to originally because some of the units in the building had sold a little bit higher, but ours didn't have a great view. There was going to be construction in front of that side of the building. So we had a lot of interest, but we only ended up with one offer because a lot of people said, I don't want to deal with that construction. So we had that discussion even before we listed. We had that discussion at the time of listing. We had that discussion throughout the listing period. And I showed our sellers all of the showings. On offer day, I actually physically call all of the showing agents that haven't sent us feedback, just to have sort of a little bit more of a rapport with them. And it's call, not email, not text, call, have a conversation. Don't try and hide between technology. So I'll go through all my notes. So I went through all my notes and said, look at the number of people that that said they don't want to deal with the construction. It just goes to exactly what we were talking about. The price that we had on the table was exactly what I said the unit should sell for. Somehow over the last 2 weeks, the owner, one of the owners, got it into her head that it was going to be selling for $40,000 to $50,000 more than what it should have sold for. So in her head, she was losing that money. I had to say, hold on a second. You created this reality without me. Like, we talked about what the value of the place was. This is exactly what we've got. We've got one offer and it's a good one. So it took probably a good hour for me to inject the reality that, so the reality. She had her reality that she created. I had to help her understand the reality. And finally she did. And in the end, she actually admitted, she said, like, I got that into my head. But at least she was reasonable. You know, sometimes we have sellers who create this environment for themselves and you can't knock any sense into them, right? Doesn't matter what the market says. And then you have to go back to have a conversation on motivation. That's a whole other story, right? But circling back, make sure you treat all the buyer's agents fairly. And actually, maybe in the last few minutes, we can talk about on the buyer agent's end or on your buyer agent's end, what you can do to help you succeed with your buyer's offer. So the preparation has to start at the buyer consultation. If you're not having a buyer consultation before you're taking buyers out, it's a huge opportunity lost. Make sure that you always have a buyer consultation. So in addition to finding out what the buyer is looking for, give them a dose of reality of the market wherever you are. Everybody has a different type of market. And even, you know, within your market, there's going to be different components, right? Your condos might not be selling for as high as your houses or vice versa, whatever it is. Make sure you educate your buyers so that they have the ammo to go in and actually shop. For us in Toronto, we want to make sure that they have their deposit as well. With our offers in competition, we ask our buyers to actually get a bank draft for deposit to submit with the offer. Kelly, Eliza, oh, did we lose Eliza? No, there's Eliza. Do you guys do that with deposits with your buyer offers?
I'm sorry, my buyer just texted me, so I apologize. I was kind of zoned out for a second. I
No.
apologize. Can you repeat that question, please?
Do your buyers get their deposits in a bank draft before your offer presentations?
No.
No. Yeah, I think that's a more of a Canadian or Ontario thing.
We don't have that.
We did actually, because of I tried with my buyer client in March. We tried to increase our competitive, and also in the listing agent's email, they also mentioned about to make sure bring a copy of your deposit in bank draft. So we try to follow the listing agent's instruction as much as we can to show our seriousness in this buying, intent. So it's a bit frustrating because my clients keep on failing getting the offer, being accepted. We have to keep on buying the bank draft. So we try 3 times. So that's a reality. In the March time frame, we do have to buy the bank draft for every overnight.
Guys, I'm sorry, my landscapers have decided that right now is where they're going to be using the leaf blower to clean our yard. So I'm sorry for the background noise. As a buyer's agent, it's really, really important for you to communicate with the listing agent. If your client is interested in the property, don't wait until offer date to talk to the listing agent. Be engaged, be positive, don't be annoying. I know that's probably common sense and I might be preaching to the choir here, but there are some buyer's agents that I've come across that I just have to say, like, do you want your buyer to get this property, or are you just trying to be horrible? Because if you're trying to be horrible, you're doing a great job. And that will absolutely affect your chances of getting this deal, probably to your buyer's detriment, because your buyer might be lovely, but you're not. And who wants to deal with somebody who's not lovely, right? Now, of course, if they turn out to be the only offer at the table, you don't want to have been mean to them, because if they're the only game in town, you don't have anybody else to work with, then yeah, you got to be. So I really work hard on, how we say in bold, keeping your emotions between the lines, because you never know when you're going to need somebody. Now, of course, if they're downright rude, don't lay down and take that. But if they're just not very professional agents, you can't dismiss them because you might need them, right? But also it's having that engagement. I'm just going to use last night again as another example. So we have this listing in our farm, it's $3 million. We had 2 agents who from the beginning expressed interest. We were talking to them 2 to 3 times a day. One was lovely, one was not, but that's okay. But then I had 2 agents who hadn't even picked up the phone, register offers an hour before offer registration. I had no relationship with them. I had no idea who they were, who their clients were. They just showed up and had an offer, which is great because then I had 4 offers instead of 2. But I had built up this relationship with these other agents over the last week, and my team did. So we knew them, we knew their clients, we had this really good rapport. And then these 2 guys came out of the blue. And one of them, and this is really important as a buyer agent, don't be arrogant or cocky when you put your offer forward. One of them, no word of a lie, he was $1,000 over asking price in a 4-offer competition. And he wrote me back this, it was so funny, he was so proud. Please find attached my client's best, big capitals, offer. It is substantially more than the house is worth. I don't know, it was something really, really crazy like that. And although we have a financing condition, we are confident that it can be waived really quickly. So it's 5 business days on a financing condition. And I have 3 other offers which have no conditions at all, and they're substantially higher. So I wrote a very nice, thank you so much for your efforts. We do have 3 other offers that are substantially higher than yours, and they're all firm. Wish your client success. Smiley face. Right? Don't do that as a buyer agent. I know you'd think that's common sense, but we know common sense is not that common. So establish that relationship with the buyer, the listing agent, because you never know how much help you can get from them. And Laura, you know, you mentioned if all listing agents would do this. Well, some listing agents are not awesome, right? Let's just admit that. But others are. And if you are professional and polite and engaged and looking for real input from the listing agent as to what can make your offer better, then that's going to take you so much further. David, do I post a list of agents offering? No. Do you?
Yeah, we used to, like when we did it in person, like Linda, I learned from Linda Gilbert-Ing.
I remember,
Like,
yeah.
You're showing up at 7:15, he's coming at 7:30, you're coming at 7:45, which is really great. And I don't know why, because I had this discussion with Philip a couple of years ago. And, you know, I don't know, sometimes it's better to know who you're up against, because you know what they're going to bring.
Well, you know what? I think that was true in the past. I think that's not true anymore. So you know, you and I are dinosaurs. We've been around for a bunch of decades, and I think
No, you're not.
I think it was absolutely critical in the past. In fact, that email that I mentioned, thank you for registering your offers, I used to not BCC agents, and in fact, David, it was that Linda Ing Gilbert email that I started following, and I would just put everybody in on the same email, and everybody could see everybody. But I stopped. I don't think there's any benefit to that. Right. So on the buyers and also, and I know from our pivot shift community, we've talked about this a lot. They call it the executive summary. Put a really nice short overview together of your offer in your email. Here's the price, here's the closing, here's some information about my clients. If you still want to get a letter and a cute picture of your clients, do it. You'll never know when it might help. More often than not, these days, money talks. It doesn't matter who's buying what. But sometimes that's, and you know what, if offers are very, very close and a seller's having a hard time making just the decision, sometimes your letter and your cute picture of your little family might help, or you know, your couple or whatever it is. That's it if they want to do it. Don't encourage people to do that because it's a lot of work and it might not actually benefit them.
Well,
Yeah.
it happened to Carol Lynn this year, and that property she had for sale. She was listing agent, but the buyer brought in this nice letter of the family buying it, and the sellers were happy to sell it a lot cheaper than they could have got.
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen, and you know, ultimately the seller has the right to pick whichever offer they want. It's not all about price. We sometimes think that it's always about price, and a lot of times it is, but not always.
Yeah, could be the size of the deposit.
Sorry, David?
Could be the size of the deposit.
That sometimes, yes. Laura, you've been waiting so patiently.
Oh, it's all right. We're not allowed to do what we call the love letters anymore. The commission banned them from us because they had said something about the fair housing. So we can't do that. And they were so good. I mean, that was the thing to help our first-time home buyers was that letter, and we can't do them anymore, which is sad.
So, and where are you?
In North Carolina, the Charlotte area.
So there's an agent, and they shall remain nameless, but they work with us now, David. She would not let her sellers be in the same room as the buyer's agents, and she wouldn't take any letters at all because she said to her seller, I don't want you to be emotionally affected. I don't want your decision to be emotionally affected. I want to get you the best price. So while that's very admirable, you have to keep in mind that clients are different and not everybody has that highest price possible goal. For some people, they might not want to sell to a builder because they don't want the house to be torn down or whatever it is. Like there's so many different layers within the decision on an offer that I don't think we as agents ever have the right to dictate what our clients should be doing. We need to give them advice. We need to help them get to a decision, but ultimately, like, they're adults, right? They can make their own best decision. I think we really have to keep that in mind. We have to remember what we're doing this for and who we're doing it for.
Absolutely.
Irene,
yeah.
I just have a challenge during the overnight. I try to build a rapport with the listing agent, but sometimes what kind of questions are considered good questions to get more information from the listing agent and help the buyer client to prepare the best offer. So I'm challenged with the questions, what kind of questions I can ask to get more information from the listing side.
Well, you can always start with the seller's pricing expectations, and sometimes you'll get that information and other times you won't, right? But if you don't ask, you're never going to know which one it is. Certainly finding out what's important with the closing. I mean, those are really the two best questions. Make sure you find out how the listing agent will run the multiple offer presentation. You know, we do all of this prep for our buyers agents, but a lot of listing agents don't. So will you be sending people back for improvement? Will you just take the best offer no matter what? Try and get a sense of how they work. And again, sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. You know, I've been in situations where there's been like 10, 15, 20 offers and the listing agent sends them all back. Like, come on, that's really unfair to the 2/3 or 3/4 of the offers that stand no chance. And sometimes, you know, you lose out by a few $1,000s. I was speaking to an agent this morning. She had a property, it was her buyer, and her offer, it was a $2.5 million property. Both of the offers were $2,630,000, her offer and the other one. And the sellers took the other one because it was a week earlier in closing. And like in that particular case, like, why wouldn't you as the listing agent just go back and say, you guys, however you want to word it in your market, right? Like, seriously, it's way too close to make a decision. Do you want to make any changes? But again, ultimately, the seller has the right to make a decision. And sometimes they just want to sell to that person as opposed to that person, right? Kevin, did you have a question? You put your hand down.
I think what you said, go back to each buyer, you mean like going back to the highest offer? Was if they want to make changes? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, if there's a small enough difference.
You got to go back to everybody.
What's that?
You have to. He said go back to the highest offer, and you got to go back to everybody.
Not the highest offer, but you know, you go back to 2 people, 3 people. You don't have to go back to everybody. But I mean, you're not gonna talk to one agent and not the others.
Well, you were saying about the 2/3, so you mean don't waste your time going back to the ones who had no chance? Is that what you meant?
Yes, I'll give you a tip on that though. So if on paper I don't think that agent stands a chance, I will politely let them go. Thank you very much. You know, you're not in the ballpark. We really appreciate your time. Sometimes they will come back. I actually had that happen on the last house that we sold personally as a family before we moved to this house. We had 4 offers and one was, I can't even remember what the pricing was, but one was about $200,000 lower than the highest one. And I said, you know, thanks very much, really appreciate it, but we're going to concentrate on the other offers. He insisted on going back, insisted. And I had really, really worked hard to prepare agents to bring their best offer because it's our own house. And we certainly didn't want to seem like we were milking people. And he insisted. He would not take no for an answer. So he came back and he was $100,000 higher than the highest offer. And I felt terrible because, you know, the poor agent whose offer we were going to accept said, but you said there wasn't going to be any improvements. I said, I was trying to get him to leave. But when somebody comes and brings you an extra $100,000 or $200,000, like, what do you say? No, you know, I told you, like, it's tricky. It's tricky. Sorry, David?
How happy were you?
I'm pretty happy. But you know, it's
Never know. You never know.
you never know. You never know.
So
So sometimes, Kevin, they'll say, why am I that far out of the ballpark? And I'll say, yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. What can I improve? You would have to improve a lot. Right. And
So-
again, we can't disclose those numbers.
back to your situation, would you give those two another chance to go up to match the 100, or do you kind of just like,
We don't oh, like that case, I can't remember what we did in that case.
okay.
But as a listing agent, what kind of information you can give or share with the buyer agent so that they have a sense where they are and how much they can improve to win the offer? So what strategy as a listing agent, what information you can share with the buyer agent?
It's a really good question, Rita. And, you know, there's no easy answer to it. You know, you can say, look, you're not, like, again, like I just mentioned, you're nowhere near the running. You know, like you're nowhere near anywhere where the other offers are. So you might as well go home. Thank you, Laura. I appreciate your compliment. But sometimes, like, it's tricky. It's a challenge. You say, well, you know what? You're gonna have to come up, because they say, can you help me? Right? Because it's always, can you help me get this deal? Well, I can't help you because I don't know what the other people are gonna do. But I can tell you, if you want to improve, you have to improve a lot. If you really like the agent, you can say, look, if the other offers have already improved, you'll say, well, you know what, maybe a little bit more. You have to be careful. You want to be honest and fair with everybody.
So Erin, I had a case, the agent asked me okay, if I bring the price up to this number, do you think it's good enough? How are you gonna respond to that?
Yes or no?
Okay,
No, that's not going to do it. It might. Let me check.
all right, thanks.
It's all learning. Listen, guys, I've been at this for 30 years and I'm still learning, right? So it's, the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And the more you learn from each situation, the better you'll be the next time. So I'm going to put my email in the chat for those of you who don't have it. And please feel free to email me. You are most welcome, Goran. I'll get the chart and the offer presentation preparation emails out to Andy so he can send them all out to you. All right, and feel free to let me know if I can help you guys with anything.
Thanks,
Thank
Erin.
you.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks for joining.
very much.
All righty,
Great,
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.